Hey, guess what I found out there? I know, right? Such a rare specimen, too. It's beautiful. This is a Steam Deck. And can you believe that at one point in time, these things were almost extinct in the wild? Now they're beginning to flourish. And if you're lucky enough to get your hands on one of these things, you can do some amazing stuff with them. Most people like to play video games with them. And you know what? I've got a few amazing ones to try out.
Okay, first off, apologies. This video got way longer than I intended it to. So if you want to skip ahead to a certain part, I'll have time codes in the description if you want to check out what games I mentioned and whatnot. So yeah, use those to your advantage. Anyways, the Steam Deck gaming catalog is absolutely massive. Racing games, fighting games, strategy, you name it. And because staring at footage of me playing on this screen can be painful to watch through another screen, I'll just record footage from the game playing on the Steam Deck itself. And now, since there are so many games you can play, I want to narrow things down by only talking about games that become a unique experience on the Steam Deck. What I really mean by that is that if a game is playable on another handheld console, such as a Switch or PS Vita, then I won't add it into this video. Which immediately eliminates a ton of amazing games, but don't worry, what we have left is still absolutely amazing. I'm also not going to count emulation, and I won't be tweaking any major game settings aside from adjusting things to proper resolution and whatnot. This way you can understand what to expect in a game if you just downloaded it and started playing without adjusting any settings yourself. All games are available on Steam and are mostly playable or verified, though I did chuck in a few unknown and unsupported games that seem to work fine for me. Just a reminder, it is Steam summer sale time, so now is the time to buy. Unless you want to wait for the autumn sale, or the winter sale, or spring. They have a lot of sales, really. I did make a video on getting deals for Steam Deck games if you'd like to check that out, but one thing I didn't mention was gg.deals, which is an amazing website for keeping track of PC gaming deals. Okay, preamble done, let's talk about games. I'm going to start with Batman Arkham, and I'm talking about the full series here really. Arkham Origins, Asylum, and Knight are all currently unsupported, but from my testing, using Proton GE, they all seem to run fine or with little issues, whereas Arkham City is actually Steam Deck verified. And now technically Arkham City was available on the Wii U, which was almost kind of a handheld system, not really, but I'm talking about the whole series here. You'll only see gameplay from Arkham Knight, since I deleted the other games after I beat them to make space. But yeah, I completed Arkham Origins and Asylum and City on this start to finish on the Steam Deck, and I think they fit perfectly on it. The story throughout the series usually centers itself on Batman and his relationship to the Joker. They aren't too long if you just focus on story missions, but they offer tons of content, especially if you want to collect all those Riddler trophies, and have several challenge modes to tackle with various characters. I haven't finished my Steam Deck playthrough of Arkham Knight yet, and I know this game received a lot of flack when it released due to poor optimizations and bugs and heavy reliance on Batmobile combat, but honestly Arkham Knight is one of my favorite, probably my favorite game throughout the series. It introduced so many interesting mechanics and looks absolutely stunning. Makes the Steam Deck a little toasty, but as I've said, I haven't gone out of my way to adjust any of the settings. It's so easy to hop in and out of this game whether you're tracking down collectibles or completing challenges, and I think that kind of flexibility lends itself well to handheld play. Leaping from one series to another, let's talk about Deadrising. Currently the compatibility rating of these games is unknown, but from my testing of Deadrising 1, 2 off the record, and Deadrising 3, those all seem to function fine, and I'd expect to see a verified or at least playable rating from them in the future. The stories usually focus on the conspiracy behind a zombie virus or specific outbreaks. I always appreciated how this is one of the only zombie stories where zombies haven't just completely destroyed the world, and people have actually created a type of vaccine for it. Either way, there are a bunch of zombie killing sandbox games to have a lot of fun in. Smack zombies with whatever objects you find lying around, or if you're playing Deadrising 2 onwards, you can craft awesome weapons to slice through zombies with ease. Deadrising 2 onwards also introduced co-op if you like to play with a friend. I played through the entirety of the first game on the Steam Deck and everything worked fantastic. I haven't beat the other games on deck yet, so I don't know if there's some weird glitches or other game-breaking bugs. They seem to work fine for a couple hours of play. I know a lot of people are intimidated by the time limit on the early games, but they were designed to be replayable, which I feel makes them perfect for the Steam Deck. Your level carries over between playthroughs, so you can spend your first one exploring or saving survivors to help level up. Then tackle the story mode on your next playthrough at a higher level. Deadrising 2 off the record has a sandbox mode, and Deadrising 3 has a mode with no time limit if you really don't want to deal with that stress and you just want to kill zombies. It's a damn shame they never made another game after Deadrising 3. Yep. Damn shame. Speaking of Capcom games where you kill zombies, the Resident Evil series is also well worth looking into if you want a more survival horror aspect to your zombie slaughter. Specifically, I'm going to talk about the Resident Evil 2 remake, since the other Resident Evil games are kind of all over the place with their Steam Deck compatibility rating, and this one is my favorite from the series anyways. Resident Evil 2 Remake is Steam Deck verified and follows the story of Leon and Claire as they make their way through the zombie-infected Raccoon City, or at least the police department. They meet interesting characters, discover conspiracies, and overcome great challenges in order to survive. I really love that this game takes you, the player, on a hero's journey. Level design is tight and maze-like towards the beginning, ammo is scarce, and zombies wait around every corner. It takes more than a simple headshot to take them down, so oftentimes it's best to run past things. Towards the end, the level design becomes more open, ammo is plentiful, and you'll find yourself feeling much more capable. It's subtle, but it's just really good game design. Now imagine it's nighttime, you're in your bed and you can't fall asleep. You want to play a game, so you grab your Steam Deck and you start up Resident Evil 2. It's dark and quiet around you, so you become completely immersed in the game. Every dark corner makes your heart race, and every noise you hear makes you want to leap out of bed and turn the lights on. It doesn't help you fall asleep, but it makes the game much more intense, which is why I think it's perfect for the Steam Deck. On top of the fact that it's a very replayable game by its very nature. And you gotta love Resident Evil because without it, we wouldn't have Devil May Cry. And Devil May Cry 5 is not only the best Devil May Cry game, but it's also Steam Deck verified. It follows the adventures of Dante, Nero, and the mysterious V as they set out to take down a new demon lord guy that's bent on destroying the world in his pursuit of power. It's an amazing hack and slash game with a nice combo rating system that encourages you to vary your moves rather than simply using the most efficient ones. Combat has a lot of intricacies that I haven't even mastered after several playthroughs. Some early Devil May Cry games kinda screw their level design by throwing in annoying puzzles, but DMC5 mostly does away with those to focus on its combat, and it pays off. Dante, Nero, and V have incredibly different playstyles, and mastering each one is no small feat. I've been playing through the Virgil DLC, and I just love how awesome it feels to slice through everything with his abilities. Nero has a nice and simple playstyle that's great for beginners, though tough to master, and V uses summons to deal damage, but he has to add his personal touch to actually finish off an enemy. While Dante has different fighting styles and weapons you can switch between mid-combo, and Virgil is a nice mix between Dante and Nero. The game isn't too long and divided into chapters, so it's easy to pick up and play. You can unlock harder difficulties or try your hand at the Bloody Palace, and because of all this, it really does suit the Steam Deck well. Also, it's weirdly labeled a co-op game, but the co-op functionality is questionable, at the very least. But we're not done with the hack and slash games yet, because Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance is straight up one of the best in its genre, and happens to be Steam Deck verified as well. The story follows Raiden 4 years after MGS4. With the elimination of the Patriot-controlled nanomachine technology, PMCs turn to making people into cyborg super soldiers, and the plot just gets even more incredibly ridiculous from that point on. As a Metal Gear Solid fan, my one request was that they didn't confirm if Solid Snake died, since he didn't have long to live after MGS4, and well, you know what, they didn't. So I got what I wanted from the story, and the rest was just a wild ride that's well worth seeing from start to finish. The main gimmick here was Blade Mode, where you could choose which direction you wanted to slice in. You could slice off limbs or just cut people in half to rip out their spines and restore your energy. Boss fights are a huge highlight because of the engaging story buildup and amazing soundtrack. Action in this game is so over the top and crazy it'll have you hooked from the start. The greatest thing about the Steam version is that it includes extra content since the main game is only about 6 hours. The Blade Wolf and Jetstream Sam DLCs were made free to everyone at some point, but they threw in other DLCs for free, like the extra VR missions in case you really want to hate yourself. The pre-order outfits like the Grey Fox one are here, as well as the overpowered sword to go with it. And you also get a boss select option in case you just want to skip straight to the boss fights, something sorely lacking in the original release. I don't think you can select these fights on a Revengeance difficulty for some reason, but it's still better than nothing. Revengeance is one of the most satisfying and highly replayable hack and slash games ever, making it a perfect fit for the Steam Deck. But that isn't the only Metal Gear game that feels great to play on the deck. Metal Gear Solid 5 is also Steam Deck verified and works amazingly well. You play as Venom Snake, who wakes up from a 9-year coma only to find out that everyone wants him dead. He then works to rebuild a militia force he established years ago in order to take vengeance against those who have wronged him. I do have to preface this by saying that I skipped about half the cutscenes in this game since I already 100%ed Metal Gear Solid 5 back on PlayStation, and I've seen someone on the Steam Deck subreddit mention that they encountered multiple crashes during cutscenes, and it's also worth noting that some cutscenes tend to drag on and it really kills the pick up and play nature of the game. Plus there's like development of some items and equipment that just takes real time, and some of these can take hours. But negatives aside, the mission-based structure makes it super easy to jump in and tackle a few missions or even infiltrate rival FOBs if you like. As a Metal Gear fan, the narrative pretty much falls apart for me by the end, and I don't think you really need to have encyclopedic knowledge of Metal Gear to enjoy what this game has to offer. Controls feel tight and responsive, plus the sheer amount of possibilities when it comes to infiltrating a compound is staggering. You can customize your character, choose a buddy, select equipment, and also choose what time of day to deploy in. Weather also has an impact on your infiltration, and experimenting usually yields some fairly interesting results. Because of its amazing controls and approachable gameplay nature, it fits perfectly onto the Steam Deck. Though, if we're gonna talk about any shooting games here, we have to talk about one of the greatest shooters of all time, Max Payne 3. This game used to have the unsupported rating, but was updated to playable, which is very cool. Set 9 years after the events of the second game, an incident in a bar forces Max to leave New York and accept a job offer to become a private security contractor in South America for the rich Bronco family. What unfolds is a tale of intrigue, corruption, and betrayal. And the cool part was that the game hides its loading screens within cutscenes, so the whole experience feels super seamless. Unless you try to skip any scenes, in which case you might have to wait a little for the game to actually load. But watching a cutscene is better than staring at most loading screens anyways. This game really nailed down the gunplay, with enemies reacting to getting shot in all sorts of interesting ways. You also had a bullet time and a dive move if you really wanted to style on people. Action sequences were always super intense, and everything else in the game felt tight and responsive. If you just want to get in and start shooting, you can unlock arcade modes to play through. There's tons of challenges to complete, and things to collect if you like. You can even unlock modifiers such as infinite bullet time or ammo. This is one of my feel-good games, and I find it super easy to jump into a level and start playing, which is why I think it's perfect for the Steam Deck. There is an online mode, but it's pretty dead these days, and any players you find will likely be hacking anyways. If you are looking for an online shooter, then perhaps turn your attention towards Splitgate. Splitgate is a Steam Deck verified title that is also free to play. Often described as Halo with portal guns, Splitgate offers tons of fun game modes and interesting arenas to compete on. None of the Halo games are supported on Steam Deck due to anti-cheat reasons, but even then, Splitgate scratches that Halo itch better than Infinite ever did in my opinion. Halo Infinite was fun for a hot minute, but I found myself wanting to play either the Master Chief Collection or Splitgate instead. Adding a portal gun mechanic really changes how you play, and helps define this game over other FPSs. You can see through your own portals and even shoot through them, but you can't see through anyone else's portals, so you'd have no idea what's on the other side unless you take the trip. You can use portals to establish a sniping position or get the drop on an enemy. You have your typical game modes like Team Deathmatch and Capture the Flag and King of the Hill, and then you have Team Snipers, Gun Game, SWAT, One in the Chamber, just to round things out before things get weird with Laser Tag and Zombie VIP. Because it's a free-to-play game, it does have some microtransactions to unlock various cosmetics and stuff, but I haven't spent a dime on the game and still managed to unlock some cool looking skins. I really like jumping into Splitgate to play a quick game or two, but to fully make use of the game on Steam Deck, you can customize the controls to make use of the back buttons. I'm still getting used to that control style myself, but I made the back buttons control various actions like my jumps or weapon switching. This way I can keep all my fingers on all the buttons I need to use at all times. It takes a bit of getting used to, but it makes Splitgate a perfect fit for the Steam Deck. Now, Splitgate can get kind of hectic, so if you're looking for an FPS game where you can slow down, immerse yourself, and get ripped apart by giant monsters, then Fallout New Vegas might be the game for you. This is an action RPG with a focus on shooting, even if the shooting is so crap you have to rely on the VAT system half the time. Fallout 3 and 4 also work well on the Steam Deck, and those two share the compatibility rating of playable. On the other hand, New Vegas is currently unknown but will also likely receive a playable rating. Of the three, many people, myself included, would recommend New Vegas the most. The difference with New Vegas is that it seems to offer the most in terms of player freedom and choice. Now don't get me wrong, I do really enjoy Fallout 3's narrative, and Fallout 4 had some fun gameplay mechanics despite the flack it received, but New Vegas is the one I find myself going back to most often. Something about the glitz and glamour of post-apocalyptic Vegas is really engaging to me, and I always enjoyed how you can just start the game and do whatever you want really. A stark contrast to Fallout 3 where you have this lengthy intro sequence of being a baby and watching events unfold as you slowly grow up. In New Vegas, you can actually take the long way around to get to New Vegas City, or take a shortcut through Deathclaw Valley, meeting all sorts of fun characters along the way and really forging your own narrative. The DLC for New Vegas is also pretty amazing, so I'd grab that too. It fits great onto the Steam Deck whether you just want to hop in and bump out a quest or two, Or if you want to stick around for a longer time, there's plenty of content to chew through. Now, if you really want a game that has some amazing side quests, then look no further than Yakuza 0. The Yakuza games, except for 4, 5, and 6, are all verified titles. However, I played through the series on PlayStation, except for Like a Dragon, which I played on Game Pass. But I do own Yakuza 0 on Steam, and that's the only one I really need, considering it's my favorite. Yakuza 0 is a prequel game to the series and takes place in the late 80s. You play as Kiryu and Majima as you attempt to clear your name, protect someone you've been asked to kill, and uncover the truth of the empty lot. It's actually a good point to jump into the series if you haven't played a Yakuza game before. It's not exactly a free roam open world GTA clone, but you get to walk around a district of a city that's densely packed with activities and wacky side quests. You can go to the arcade and play some games, or hit the dance floor to show your moves. You can jump into this game and just lose yourself doing random things for hours. The bulk of the gameplay is combat, and it plays like an action brawler. You have a dodge, block, and grab, and you can switch fighting styles mid-combat. The two characters play fairly different from one another, and you can level up and unlock more combos and abilities. It always feels like there's something new for me to discover anytime I jump into this game, which is why I find it perfect for the Steam Deck. If you're looking for a different approach to combat, then Yakuza Like a Dragon has all the flair of your typical Yakuza game, but with an RPG twist. Like a Dragon actually has my favorite story among the Yakuza games, and might be a good starting point since it focuses on a new cast of characters, but combat is pretty basic and doesn't come close to something like Persona. Speaking of Yakuza and Persona, that's all Sega, right? You know what else is Sega? Sonic. I have officially run out of good segues. Anyways, a good Sonic game comes around once in every, 5 Sonic games, right? And Generations is one of the good ones. A celebration of Sonic games old and new, Sonic Generations sought to blend the classic style of gameplay with the new. The result was an amazingly fun game that I find myself going back to very frequently. The story follows Sonic as he's celebrating his birthday or something, then a dark time god eats everything and Sonic has to run around, I guess. Story isn't important here. The gameplay, on the other hand, is phenomenal. Each level is divided between 2 acts, and Act 1 has you playing as classic Sonic with the spin dash and the 2D, whereas Act 2 will put you in modern Sonic's shoes as you boost through stages in 3D. Each stage is based on a game from Sonic's past, and seeing something like City Escape in a classic Sonic style is actually really cool. Each level is designed to be replayed if you want to uncover all the red rings, since they are hidden at different parts of the stage. In basic Sonic level design is usually something like the top part of the stage is the safest and quickest path, but the hardest to get to or stay on. It takes practice to know where all the shortcuts are in a stage, but it's super fun to pull them off. I always find myself hopping into something like Rooftop Run Act 2, as that's my favorite stage, and trying to see what kind of time I can get. Because it's so easy to jump in and play through a quick stage or two, this game is perfect for that pick up and play feeling that handheld gaming excels at. But you know what else Sonic is in? Starbound. Obviously, if you install mods. Oh yeah, we really ran out of good segues. Starbound is Steam Deck playable, mainly because it doesn't have native controller support. It does have an official layout for the Steam Deck, and while navigating menus is still more cumbersome than it needs to be, it works quite well. And while I'm here, let me apologize for the weird resolution. For some odd reason, the game wouldn't actually let me adjust the resolution to something more appropriate for the capture card, so this is what we have to deal with. I don't really like playing games on keyboard and mouse, that's just me personally, but I do really like Starbound, and having a simple and easy way to enjoy it with a controller is pretty great. It's a 2D survival crafting and space exploration game. I think if you took something like Terraria and smashed in some No Man's Sky. Even though Starbound came out slightly before that one. You explore planets, gather resources, craft bases and equipment, and then travel to new planets and continue your journey. It also supports Steam Workshop mods for some fairly easy mod support. The controls aren't going to be perfect. For example, if you tilt the control stick slightly to the left, it will register as a full input because it's mimicking the A key on your keyboard. This means there's no difference between slightly tilting your stick or pushing it all the way in one direction. You'll also have to get used to that trackpad for this game if you want to have an easy time navigating menus. All that being said, Starbound is a great game to jump into whether you're looking to spend a few minutes building a base or a few hours exploring a planet, making it a perfect fit on the deck. But maybe Starbound is one dimension too few. You need a 3D action, survival crafting game with great Steam Deck support. Well, look no further than Valheim, an early access survival crafting game that even tells you the Steam Deck controls in the pause menu. Valheim is actually a fairly feature-complete experience for an early access title. Sure, the UI could use some cleaning up and optimizations for controller inputs, but it's a pretty fun game with an amazing soundtrack and striking visuals. And yes, sure, the textures will look like you ripped them out of a PS1 game, but then it's like you took those assets and imported them to Unity and added some awesome lighting effects. It gives the game a very unique and appealing visual aesthetic. You spend your time gathering resources to craft shelter and equipment before setting off to fight monsters and gather better resources before eventually tackling a big boss. Because you set your own pace for the adventure, it's the perfect game to jump in and out of, making it one of those perfect Steam Deck games. You can even play the game with some friends if you like, which is actually why I haven't played too much of the game yet myself, because I'd still rather have some new things to experience with my friends whenever they get the game. If Valheim isn't early enough access for you, for whatever reason, maybe try another early access title like Vampire Survivors. And I have to apologize again because this also got recorded in a weird resolution that I couldn't change. This game is Steam Deck verified and is usually stupid cheap. Its UI looks like it was designed to be a mobile game, and it rips off a lot of assets from Castlevania, just giving them slight tweaks, like Alucard with boobs over there. But it's an oddly addictive game that I can't put down easily. It's like a twin-stick shooter without the twin-stick part, which honestly doesn't sound appealing to me, but that simplicity is actually what makes this game so addictive. You focus on positioning, and maybe aiming, though a lot of weapons just aim themselves. You then proceed to just kill enemies and collect the experience they drop. When you level up, you can choose from one of a few select upgrades, and as you collect more of these, you'll become significantly more powerful. Some pieces of equipment even evolve when paired with others, so planning your upgrades is almost essential to success. But discovering these upgrades is a part of the experience. When you die, you can invest whatever gold you collected in new permanent upgrades and characters. You can unlock more characters by completing challenges. This all helps create a fairly addictive gameplay loop that has you wanting to stick around for more. I shouldn't even have to explain why a game like this fits perfectly on the Steam Deck. If you prefer your roguelikes to have a little more polish, then maybe try one that recently left early access and had its full release, like Rogue Legacy 2. It's Steam Deck verified and is a roguelike Metroidvania. You jump into this castle and have to navigate your way through dangerous enemies and deadly hazards until your inevitable death, at which point you can continue to play as an ancestor with different traits and abilities than your previous character. You can then invest your gold to upgrade your own castle or equipment. If I were to compare this to other roguelikes, or even another Metroidvania roguelike, such as Dead Cells, then I think the main difference would be you usually always feel more powerful on your next run than you did on the previous run. In Dead Cells, you get progressively more powerful during your run until you eventually die when you go back and start at zero again. Rogue Legacy 2 is different in the sense that when you invest gold in your upgrades, those are permanent. You get increased damage, health, magic, unlock new classes, purchase new equipment, and buy permanent teleporter access so you can skip straight to the area you need to be in. The bosses you defeat stay defeated for future runs as well. In this way, you always feel like you're making good progress. I would often find myself finishing a run, then investing some gold and thinking, well, I gotta try out this new equipment I got, or I just got a new class and I really want to try that one out. And then I get sucked into playing another run. And because I can take this game anywhere with me on Steam Deck, that's become very dangerous. Almost as dangerous as spending hours crafting the perfect character in Calibur VI. A Steam Deck playable fighting game with an amazingly robust character creator. Sure, there is a story mode for each character, but I don't actually know what's going on here since I spend most of my time creating or downloading other people's custom characters and fighting with those. Plus, I felt like I needed a fighting game for this list, and most of the ones I have on Steam are available on something like the Switch, or they don't work due to anti-cheat reasons. I've heard Guilty Gear Strive works with Proton GE, or that certain videos and stages cause problems, but I haven't had a good chance to test that out myself, so we'll stick with this. Plus, Calibur VI is a pretty good game, despite the lack of rollback netcode. I often spend my time customizing characters and tweaking them to perfection until pitting them against one another, like they're action figures or something. I get a weird sense of satisfaction from it, I'll be honest. A fighting game in 3D where you can smack at opponents and cleave their armor off is good enough for everyone, right? I mean, the hitboxes aren't as tight as something like Tekken, and the combos aren't as satisfying as Mortal Kombat, and the online isn't as good as Guilty Gear Strive, but I really love playing this game. It's just stupid good fun, you know? Especially when I get to play with friends and we pit our stupidest looking characters against each other. And now I can craft these abominations while I'm on the toilet. You know what else you can do on the toilet? Poop yourself as you run from the massive zombie hordes trying to devour you in Left 4 Dead. Or the Zoidberg hordes, I guess. This is a Steam Deck verified title with workshop support, so downloading mods is super easy. Left 4 Dead 2 is some good zombie killing fun alone or with friends. You try your best to make your way through hordes of zombies to reach the end of each stage. If you can't find a way to work as a team, even with your AI companions, then you'll die alone as you're grabbed by a smoker, blinded by a boomer bile, and smashed by a tank. Or grabbed by a Squidward, blinded by Wario bile, and smashed by a Shrek if you're using the mods I have. This game really shines when played in co-op, and even though something like Back 4 Blood is more modern, it adds unnecessary RPG mechanics which I find muddy things up too much. The simple arcade-like feel of Left 4 Dead has always made it more approachable and fun, and I'll always fondly remember the times me and my friends would screech at each other as the zombies slowly tore us apart. Then we would tear each other apart because we kept killing ourselves in Battleblock Theater, an amazingly charming platforming game with different levels for single player and co-op play. If you ever played Alien Hominid, this was like the PDA games on crack. The story and narration is also super charming and entertaining. If you really like it, then maybe pick up Pit People afterwards, which is much more of a strategy game, but has the same style of writing. Battleblock Theater has some intense platforming filled with some pretty interesting gimmicks and very catchy music. It's one of those games that once you start playing it, you won't be able to just get it out of your head. Going for the highest ranking on every level can also feel quite addictive and satisfying until it becomes absolute torture later on. Just talking about this game right now makes me want to go and play it. And because there are different levels for single player and co-op, I never feel like I'm missing out if I'm playing alone or if a friend is playing with me, even if we usually just end up finding stupid ways to kill each other. Speaking of stupid ways to kill each other, probably would have been a good segue, but I think we're done here. That was a lot of games, but there are plenty more that play great on the Steam Deck as well. So that means it's time for the Quickfire Round. In the Quickfire Round, I'll remove the requirement criteria for games, so I'll include ones that are playable on other handhelds, and just maybe say a couple words about each game. We'll also talk about games that I just didn't have much to say about or were too similar to another game already featured, so yeah, whatever. Ready? Let's go. Castle Crashers, one of the best and most replayable side-scrolling beat-em-ups. Elden Ring, touch grass while you touch grace. Disco Elysium, some of the best writing I've ever seen in a game. Dying Light, perfect game to use those back buttons with. Skyrim, yes, I'm actually still playing Skyrim. Guacamelee, Metroidvania games with special moves like they're straight out of Smash Bros. Henry Stickmin, plays better than you'd think on Steam Deck. Lisa the Painful, did that guy really just cut my arm off? No Man's Sky, totally redeemed itself. Portal 2, you know, it's like Splitgate without the halo. Risk of Rain 2, for when you just feel like shooting things. Reventure, a charming little game with 100 endings. Skullgirls, I'm still learning how to play as Big Band. Wargroove, a really nice love letter to Advance Wars. Did that Advance Wars remake ever release? Bloodstained, a really nice love letter to Castlevania. They're supposed to add multiplayer at some point. Lethal League Blaze, the deadliest game of dodgeball. Crypt of the Necrodancer, you can add your own music to the game and play along to that. Slay the Spire, wait, card games can be fun? Chain of Memories really screwed my head as a kid. And just to round things off, Hatoful Boyfriend, which I have never actually played, because I tried to hit every genre and I think I missed dating game. And yeah, I probably could have said something like Stardew Valley, but I mean, come on. Pigeons or whatever, you know? Steam Deck playable. Okay, honestly I don't even think we scratched the surface. Personally, I've been playing a lot of Spelunky 2 and really enjoying that. Persona 5 Royal is coming to Steam and that's a game I already sunk 150 hours into on PlayStation. The point is, there's a lot of games that play great on the Steam Deck. Maybe the only one I didn't care for so much was Red Dead Redemption 2, which, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love that game. But it's a fairly slow-paced game with a lot of cinematic horseback riding that just has me holding up the Steam Deck to my face and watching hopelessly as it kills my battery life. Alright, I gotta get going. If they find me here, they'll chop me up into pieces and feed me to their young. I appreciate you and everything you do. Ciao. They found me.